All right, we are live with episode 44 of Beyond the CMS. It's been almost a little more than 3 years now, actually. Thanks to everyone who is making some time during their lunch in the Eastern time zone, and folks who are checking this out later on in the future through our Spotify, Apple, and YouTube channels. Really appreciate it. This is Beyond the CMS, where we chat about the future state of content operations and trends in content. The idea here is that if you are listening in now, we're live on LinkedIn, and we have some technology that will allow us to see your comments. If you post anything in the comments, that usually works, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you might have. The idea behind the show started out, it's kind of lifted the idea from the car guys, which are a couple guys on National Public Radio who answer people's questions about their cars. And we have a number of our both customers and our prospective customers who are typically CMOs or VPs of marketing that are asking me similar questions over and over again. And I really wanted to create an environment where we could talk about the technical nature of content and ideas in kind of a low-key space with really rich ideas. My name's Chris Bryce. I'm the CEO of Dotfusion. We are a content operations shop with headless websites at the core. And each episode, we have a really special guest. And today, we've got Derk Majoewskij from Storyblok joining us to tell us about all the great things that are going on at Storyblok. Well, let's get going. Do you want to introduce yourself? And thanks for joining from the other part of the world. You're in Lisbon, I understand.
Thank you for the warm welcome and the introduction. Yes, hi everybody. My name is Derk. I work at Storyblok as Product Strategist and Discovery Lead. So I'm leading our product owner team, making sure that we build the right things. So we're doing a lot of customer calls, discovery, prioritizing our roadmap, and so on. Then making sure that we build it in the right way, validating it with customers, working together with the engineering team, and eventually shipping it as well and syncing with all the other teams involved. And also on the other way, I'll try to communicate our roadmap and our vision as much as I can. So having roadmap sessions with customers and clients, doing these kind of podcasts, sometimes a presentation at our own Joy-Con, for example, last year. Just trying to bridge the gap between our product and the market, kind of. So very nice to be here.
Super cool. Well, why don't we get started off with maybe, in your words, telling us a little bit about like what is Storyblok, and I kind of phrase it this way because later we turn these into smaller bits of content, but that's really important, and it'd be great to hear from your point of view.
Yeah, that's a really nice opening question. So, what is Storyblok? I've worked here for longer than 4 years now, so I've been I've been there for quite a while now, and from my experience, Storyblok has always been, it is a headless CMS, so a content management system where the front end and the back end are taken apart. So it's super flexible to integrate it with all the front end frameworks your development team might have, which gives the developers a huge benefit. Therefore, it's mainly from a technical side. People really like headless solutions. They can integrate it with all sorts of solutions they have in their tech stack, etc. But our two founders, Dominic and Alex, when they founded the company, they saw this headless solutions coming up, but they really saw the gap that those headless solutions, as the front end and the back end were taken apart, it didn't really work for the non-technical teams. So the marketing teams who couldn't really, get a good preview of what they were working on. So they really wanted to jump into that gap as a headless CMS that works really well for both the technical teams by being headless, but also really well for the non-technical teams by bringing a visual editing experience to the table. So that was their initial main feature that really made Storyblok stand out as a headless CMS with this visual editing part. But I feel that since then we really tried to double down on that user experience by being, we now call it joyful. We kind of trademarked that term a while ago, but we call it joyful. Is that working with your content shouldn't be a pain in the butt. It should be easy for people to understand, especially now with the world that goes so fast. Your content needs to be live as fast as possible, be updated really fast, and so on and so forth. So it's very needed for everyone to have a content management system that's easy to understand, easy to use, and easy to get their content to market. So that's really the gap we're still kind of trying to fill in, being that headless CMS that works really well for everyone.
Awesome. And just for the record, would you mind giving your definition of headless?
Ooh, good question. Because when I started at the company, in my onboarding, I think in the first week you needed to write an article on what is headless and what is your take on headless. And I think I used headless Nick, I think it's called, from the Harry Potter series, the guy who takes his head off, and I use that as an analogy. But my take on headless is actually that you have your content in one place and you can kind of do with it whatever you like. You can publish it everywhere. You can integrate it with all the tools you have in the tech stack. So it really gives you the flexibility to use your content in any kind of way you want. That's how I would briefly describe it.
Okay, yeah, super cool. I just have a collection now of different people's opinions on what headless is. And you brought up a really interesting point, like kind of back in the day, 6-7 years ago, when there was this kind of concept of pure headless. Man, did we ever have a hard time chatting with our marketing kind of clients? Like, how do we see what we're posting here? Like, we got to push it on a development server or go over there and look. And I think Storyblok is known for its visual editing interface and the kind of your design studio there. Do you want to talk a little bit about the evolution of that and where that's heading?
Sure. Like as I said from the start, that was kind of the main feature, the visual editing experience that the marketing or the content editors or the marketing teams could actually really see what they were doing with a headless CMS. And we also launched a couple of years ago, I think it was in 2022, we launched Storyblok V2, which was a completely new UI of our app, but also of the visual editing experience, where we also wanted to make it way easier to collaborate with your team within the visual editing experience. So you can leave comments in your content. What else? You can translate it way easier. So we really wanted for someone who works on the content to be super easy to see what they're working on and make changes together with their team. That's how we envision it. And also in the future, what we're actually having on our roadmap is inline editing. So currently you're making changes on the right-hand side and you see it on the left-hand side in your preview. But we really want to use kind of inline editing, that you're actually making changes in the preview itself. So we really envision this to be that you're actually working on the actual content that will go live. So the gap is so little there, and it should be super easy to find your way within the editing experience.
Okay, yeah, that's the feedback that we get from our clients who use Storyblok's, like, oh, this is a joy to use. And that's one of our kind of core value words as well. Like, we should be a joy to work with. The tooling should be joyful. And of course, we need to create a joyful intersection with AI, because it's creating all kinds of opportunities for efficiencies and creativity. I know that's a big part of your roadmap. And I'd love to hear more about your vision for what's in store for Storyblok. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So in the last couple of years, we already brought quite some significant updates to the AI table, but mainly they were within our tool, like AI translation, so you can translate your content without a click of a button. AI alt text generation, AI SEO, so meta tag generation through AI. Also bringing new models to our AI solutions. So we recently launched Claude, by the way, so you can now empower those features with Claude. But also what was really requested back then was bring your own AI branding. So you want to tailor the output of AI slightly towards your brand and your tone of voice. So we got a lot of requests around, can we can we give the AI tool some inputs through Storyblok? So you could say, this is the audience, this is the tone, use emojis or not. So we launched those kind of things. And we launched an ideation room. So there was kind of a Google Doc space within Storyblok where you, with the help of AI, you could draft content and immediately sync it towards your actual pages within Storyblok. But more recently, that whole conversation, of course, like in the rest of the world, got blown out of proportions and got a lot bigger. So we recently have launched FlowMotion and our MCP server just to integrate AI tools directly with Storyblok. And how I see this is previously it was like you were working on your content within a CMS and you were making the changes yourself. So your content was actually static and you would make the changes. But how I see this is your content is living within your CMS, is automatically updated through automation tools, is automatically by Strata, which we will dive into more deeply, but is searchable for AI tools. So it gets optimized for AI search, a GEO. So it actually kind of lives through agents and through searchability. So that, the human is more the human in the loop in the whole process around content instead of doing all those things itself. So that's where I see AI in.
Yeah, I coined a new term, and I'm going to send it out there to see if it catches on. But I spent a lot of time with some pals on mountain bikes and bicycles, and the amount of kind of electric assist happening out there is kind of mind-boggling. So we're calling our operations AI assist. It's in there helping out. It's we're making sure that we've got tight reins on everything that we do. But stuff that we've been like super stoked on is we're really excited about how do you work with a CMS? And I think we were chatting a bit earlier, like we've got 5 different ways of getting content from an idea into the CMS. And one of them that is just one of our favorites is kind of an automation and workflow shop. It's the FlowMotion tool, and the gang at Dotfusion had some early access to be playing around in there. But it's more than just kind of N8N under the hood. It's like built right into the platform, which takes away so much like DevOps and IT overhead, just managing all that hosting. You want to do a bit of a deep dive there, and
FlowMotion is our automation layer within Storyblok. It's based on N8N, but it's directly within Storyblok, as you said. So as you explained, an automation tool. So it kind of connects a lot of triggers through nodes with each other. So you can set up a whole lot of automation flows that you want. That's also a challenge with this, right? Because the possibilities are kind of endless. So where do you start and what are the best use cases? That's also that we needed to find out before we launch this, like how will people actually use this, because it's so kind of endless. But a really brief example is that you have dedicated Storyblok triggers through FlowMotion. So let's say you publish a story or your page in Storyblok. This triggers an action that the story gets automatically sent to, for example, Localize or another translation tool that you have integrated. The story or the page gets translated. It goes back to Storyblok. It gets published, and you get automatically a Slack notification through an integration as well. So you're just with one click of a button, a publication, you get like a translated page publishing in return, and you get automatically notified by it. So that's a really short and high over example, but that's how we see automation kind of work with your content. And I think with these kind of tools, like with content, there are so many cumbersome and time-consuming tasks that need to be done in order to stay relevant and to make sure that your content is actually profiting your business. And I think this is really relevant for CMOs and marketing people. Like the time it takes to get proper content to the market is still, there's still a lot of work need to be done. And through these automation tools, you speed up the whole process that much, and it's less error prone, and yeah, it just makes life so much easier from a marketing or content editing perspective. So that's really where I think this whole CMS world is going. Like there's way more room for the marketing teams to define a strategy, and all the operation gets done by these automation and AI tools.
Yeah, it's really cool. I just want to point out to anyone who's listening now or later, and just also a shout out to anyone who is making some time to listen in live here. We've been building automations for a while, and we have some conversations around, well, why don't we just build our automations outside of Storyblok with like webhooks or whatever that is? And it's like, just for an enterprise, that doesn't work that great. If you're building N8N stuff outside, you've got all kinds of like IT issues to deal with. And I just wanted to emphasize how cool it is seeing that whole node interface. And also, I believe there's custom Storyblok stuff that you get with FlowMotion that aren't out in the wild. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know I have folks wondering about FlowMotion, and I'd love to have.
So the main benefit is that you have custom Storyblok triggers and actions already within FlowMotion. So you don't need to set up anything. You can just select them, and you have them integrated within FlowMotion. So it's super easy to get going with FlowMotion straight into Storyblok. And as you said, you don't need to set up anything through N8N. It's just everything in one platform, having the right triggers and actions already in place, and just setting it up and get going. So also there, it comes back to that whole ease of use that we always want to dive into. Like, it should be easy to work with content, and as well as automation in this case.
Yeah, and I can just attest to that. It's super easy to use, and the infrastructure is awesome. So always looking forward to the new releases your team has. But that was like one of our favorites by far, because we're like, oh yeah, let's get in there. And we've been making some cool videos about how to use it too. So be sure to check out.
Can I ask you, what is one cool example of a flow you made?
Yeah, well, we've done like everything from like multi-stage video production, grabbing different assets from different places and compositing videos and making outputs. We do a lot of stuff internally that are more notification-based triggers. So if something is moving down a content supply chain pipeline and hits a block somewhere with we have some pretty advanced agentic tooling, and let's say we're running an AEO formatted blog post. Well, our process isn't just like, hey, chat, write us a blog post. We have a tool set of 5 agents that will run a workflow to create that post. There's kind of a research phase, writing, editing, a heavy duty governance, fact checking. Like anytime we say, hey, we did 70% of something, it's like, really? Can you? All of that stuff. So there's kind of a bunch of phases there. We're not watching while those happen. They're kind of on autopilot if they move through, but we have kind of tolerance indicators. This is all controlled through N8N, and it'll ping through Slack. We got a block over here. But what's really cool is now that we have that, let's call it the post created, then we go through what we call a refactoring stage. So on our blog, we probably have 17 fields in our content model for what a blog is. So we'll go through a refactoring phase where all the meta, all the schema, the FAQ, all that stuff kind of gets refactored. Okay, cool. And then it's kind of pushed to one direction, says push in the Storyblok, get it ready for someone to just hit publish. But then we go, okay, we need 3 LinkedIn posts refactored, and we need an image created. Go to Nano, create an image, tone and voice. So that's a really long chain workflow that really just starts with write a post about what our AEO analysts, which is another agent, saying we should write about based on competitive access to Google Search Console. So this is all this big 140 node chain of stuff where, and something I think would be cool to point out, because I explain this a lot too, with all of this AI stuff, you can get extremely high quality, amazing stuff at that 99% awesome level. But right now, I basically say it takes 25 times the amount of time that you would write one normal awesome blog post to create the workflow and the AI infrastructure to get it right. But if you invest that time, you're now released future state from ever doing that again, really.
Yes.
I do really recommend the folks spend time learning to be kind of a bit more architecturally minded, because the mainstream chat interface has got people believing like, what's for dinner? Okay, here's what's in the fridge, make this stuff. But like, there's a real opportunity for folks to become great architects, so that was our favorite kind of stuff. We also have interesting some things that work particularly well with Storyblok, where we'll go run some nodes that are referencing out, let's say we have an opportunity to migrate a WordPress site over to Storyblok. And as a sales opportunity, we have a fairly advanced workflow that will go into a WordPress site, recreate all the React component, or create the React components, because it's really not React, rebuild it in Storyblok with editable blocks. And we just hit a button and say, go make this site over there. And we're on a call saying, hey guys, we've got this set up. Like, it's 80% there. We got still some work to do, but it just shows the power of automation stuff. But
that's awesome.
So that's a lot of fun. One of the challenges that we've had as an agency with headless stuff is this concept of kind of composability, and what is that whole stack? If the CMS is just content, we've got maybe search, maybe we've got some other components, we've PIM management, or whatever it is. It's always tricky to help upfront assess that kind of total orchestration of everything. Search being one of the most important. And I know that you guys have been working on something that addresses search right within Storyblok. I don't know if you're able to chat about that at all with your kind
You're talking about Strata?
Strata, yeah.
Nice. With Strata, it's last year at JoyConf, our own conference, we announced kind of two major features. One was FlowMotion, and the other one is in Strata. And Strata is our built-in vector database that we're actively working on now. I cannot give any release dates at this moment, but we're definitely actively working on it. And with this, we believe that, especially with the whole GEO search happening at the moment, like, if you type in what is the best CMS in your AI tool now, this is completely different than SEO was before, because with SEO you just had 10 blue links where you would maybe pay for, and it would rank the highest. But with these AI LLM tools, they would scrape your whole content repository. They would scrape not only what you're actively promoting, but they would scrape your entire content repository, that you also, maybe the blog articles you wrote like 10 years ago. So you need to know, as a business, if all the content you have live, is that still relevant? Is it still up to date? And we really believe that you need to understand all your content. And through that vector database, which essentially means that you're able to give your content meaning. So it doesn't work with exact keywords anymore, but it understands kind of your content. So if you say, can you give me all the articles I wrote about freezing weather, it doesn't need to necessarily have freezing weather in it. It understands that it's about that topic, and it gives you all the articles around that topic. So it's way easier for you to understand your content and to find your content, and to also optimize your content for those AI tools. So that way, you're able to rank much easier higher in those GEO search tools and AI tools that's taking off at the moment. So we really believe that through that vector database you have in Storyblok, you're way better in understanding your content, and makes it able for the AI LLM tool to understand your content as well, and to get your content on the top of the outcomes there. So that's what we're aiming for with Strata.
Very cool. We'll be watching closely, and I can't wait for that to come out myself. I'll put myself on the line a little bit, because this video is going to live on. I think currently you type in best headless agency Canada, we're #1. So it's a tricky world out there right now with all this AEO stuff and people claiming, they can get you ranked and buy their program and this kind of thing. We've spent the better part of 2 years figuring out what is the right amount of activity and how do you manage content and what's important to get found. We do a really good job of that for ourselves and our customers, but I can tell you our #1 recommendation is to be on basically a tech stack of Next and React. And that essentially is headless, is Storyblok.
Yeah.
This keeps things clean. It presents data beautifully when it's kind of organized properly to the bots. So yeah, it's a kind of a moving target, but keeps things interesting for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're essentially responsible for product and the vision. Can you tell us a little bit more kind of what's down the road? What are you guys thinking about? Is there any?
So of course we're as you can tell from the conversation we just had, we're diving heavily into that whole content operations through automation and AI, as we really believe that that's the future. But we also really want to emphasize on the usability, because I think that's one of our key strengths. So this can make it all very complicated, all these tools and all these automation layers, but we really want to stay that joyful headless CMS. So we will always keep on focusing on those topics as well. As I said, inline editing, but also workflows easier, translations easier, history features easier. So we really want to keep our product as simple as possible and easy to use as possible for all the teams. And what we also are heavily focusing on is kind of the core of the house. So stability, enterprise needs, security needs, especially also in this time, security is a hot topic, of course, right? So we know all those challenges, and we're also definitely focusing on these let's say less sexy needs, but that's also a big topic on our roadmap to make sure that the basics are always still in place for all our bigger enterprise clients as well. So yeah, that's mainly on the roadmap.
Awesome. We didn't talk specifically about MCP Server. I'd love to have a little bit of a segment around that. I've got some kind of cool examples of what we've been doing, but do you want to just explain what that is kind of in layman's terms?
Very simply is that you can connect your AI model with your Storyblok space, so to say. So let's say you want to give an action through Claude to your Storyblok space. You can just connect the two with each other through our MCP server. We have a web page where it's explained fairly simply how to connect them, and then you can do all sorts of things based on Claude. So you can say, search for this story in my space, update it, and so on and so forth. So it's a way for you to work with your AI tool directly in your Storyblok space. So I'm curious what you have been doing so far with it.
Oh, well, one of our great use cases is we really acknowledge the fact that, at least in our world, folks aren't typing anymore. We've all got flow or some kind of dictation. So it's really weird where we're hanging out, we're like, you talking to me? And like, no, I'm talking to Claude. You almost need a different tone. But what's great about MCP is, let's say, for example, I don't know, you're a quick serve restaurant chain and you really want, one out of the 500 franchises you have every week to be posting something live from the store kind of thing. Well, in the past, like, that'd be such an awkward thing. You have to, someone's got to do it. They got to take a notepad. They got to run back to the computer. They got to type it all in. Yeah. And now our idea is, well, have an ambassador from the store. And for 2 hours, once a month, they're going to be live in the store at lunchtime, just with their phone on voice mode, going, hey, I'm at the place. We got all this activity. I'm going to go and have a little interview with this customer. Boop, upload that. FlowMotion grabs it, whips it through a whole governance model that repurposes it without losing tone and voice. Crazy. And then you've got a beautiful little blog post that creates really interesting content for people, not kind of boring out of the can thing, because it's unique. And that's the kind of stuff we really love, because our customers are like, dude, that's like, what a great idea, And it speaks to the whole idea of FlowMotion, where we've got motion in the content flow. Like, how cool is that? And we just had a chat yesterday with a large chain of shopping centers that's really struggling for content for that exact reason. They've got one marketing manager at the property, and they've got all kinds of stuff to do with their day. And we're just like, have her do a mall walk for 1 hour a week and just say some stuff. You know, there's probably 5 beautiful little sparks for content.
Yeah, it's cool. We have to be careful that we won't get too lazy. Now we can automate all these things, and we keep an eye on things as well.
Yeah, we got some ideas around like what's going on with our imagination impact here, but whoa, okay. Well, we're running out of time here. I did want to just create a little bit of space for you to let people know how do they onboard? Can we get a demo? Who do they talk to? How do they reach out to Storyblok?
Yeah, so you can always contact us through our website, through our sales team, support team. You can sign up yourself for our Storyblok application through storyblok.com. I definitely recommend you to. We recently revamped our whole onboarding self-service trial journey. So if you want to try it out, you have 45 days to try it out on our Growth Plus plan for free. So I definitely recommend you to try it out yourself. If you like it, you can always contact our sales team or support team. So I'd say let's get going.
Awesome. And if you have any questions about onboarding, want to see a proof of concept, that's what Dotfusion's all about, is getting people exposed to Storyblok and seeing how awesome it is. We've got tons of different components and interesting workflows and stuff set up, and examples on our YouTube channel. So that's always cool. But we are going to sign off. Derk, thanks a ton. You just made episode 44 super remarkable. And I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me again. And likewise, thank you so much for the questions.
Awesome. I'm going to click end here and catch you in just a moment. And thanks, everyone. We'll see you in the future.
Bye-bye.